Welcome to the Ogles channel, thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game, and today we're focusing on a game called In Your Face for the original Game Boy. Now the game itself does sound way more radical or more competitive, or I guess way more action-based than really what it's going to be. This is very much of a by-the-books, basic Game Boy basketball game, and I think it's probably a marketing ploy because they probably saw the success of like NBA Jam. Everybody's wanting more of an excitement, more of a he's on fire, basketball game, and they simply changed the title here to try to make it sound like that. But I can't say it really worked to a great degree for them. But let's go ahead and dive into In Your Face. Now, as I start the videos, I'll be looking at the box art for the game, and the box art for In Your Face, you're gonna notice it's gonna look really darn familiar. So familiar that it's actually the exact same picture for an NES game called Hoops. They did not change a single thing between these two images except for the title of Hoops, now being called In Your Face, which sort of leads me once again to believe that they probably saw the success of like NBA Jam and they wanted more of a action-based game, more action-based title to draw people in, and Hoops just really wasn't I guess doing it for people at the time. So the cover here is just simply a very basic basketball scene, and really nothing too special about it. The logo itself for In Your Face is sort of, I guess, cartoony looking. Almost looks like the logo for like King of the Hill to a degree, at least from my perspective. But let's go ahead and dive into the actual gameplay of In Your Face. Now, when you load the actual game up here, you got a pretty basic little title screen, the name of the game right there in the center, a little brick background represents a street basketball, and a very proficient but very, very annoying song playing in the background. It reminds me of the song The Entertainer that I learned to play on the piano growing up, and it was a song that you had to learn like as far as like the books go, but I never like enjoyed the song. And so this song reminds me a lot of that, and so like starting off, the soundtrack for this is like not my favorite, and the soundtrack is not going to get a whole lot better as we go either. But the title screen here, pretty basic. You do have the option of one player or two player. Two player requires a link cable, so we're going to obviously go into the one player mode. And the one player mode gives you the option of playing either a 1 versus 1 or a 2 versus 2. Now, in order to finish the game, which is obviously pretty much the entire concept of the series here, we're going to have to win a match on 1 versus 1 and win a match on 2 versus 2. And so we're going to go with 1 versus 1 first. Now, when you load it up here, you have a choice of 4 players that you can pick from to be your main basketball player. And I didn't recognize like any of these names on the screen here, and I was a little bit disappointed because I actually kept up with basketball a decent bit back in this era, so I expected to know like some of the players, but I didn't know any of them. And so I ended up going with a player called Small because like I know when I played NBA Jam, John Stockton for the Jazz was like one of the best players in the entire game. He was really, really short, and he was like crazy good at three-pointers. And so I was like, hey, maybe there's my opportunity to take the short player and be like another John Stockton in this game. So I pick Small. I go on to the next screen. I go ahead and choose a 10-point match because, just sort of getting the hang of the game here. And I started up, and it has a really good little cutscene of them flipping the coin. And the coin's, flying through the air here. It has a nice little street scene in the background. And honestly, the animation for this particular cutscene is like one of the best things in the entire game. They should have got the animators from this scene to like work with the animations on the rest of the game. But I digress on that. But after you win the coin flip, the ball game starts. And of course, the angle for this particular basketball game is a little bit different than some of the other basketball games out there. Yes, it is the same as the Hoops game on NES because it's what the game is based after. But most basketball games of this era anyway would do more of a horizontal view of the entire basketball court, where it's just simply a vertical view and you're only going to be playing on one of the two goals. And so I guess it's more akin to like what most street basketball is like, but it's a little bit different than most other basketball games that are out there. But the game starts up, and I was not prepared for like how bad I was going to actually do in this particular game. I got hit with traveling like pretty much almost every shot that I was trying to go for, and it's a pretty easy concept. You just simply press A, jump up in the air, press A again to shoot the ball. But for some reason I got hit with traveling like constantly. The times I did not get hit with traveling, I still missed a goal. I went up for a dunk. I missed my dunk in the game. You got a nice little cutscene for the dunk, but it sort of ruins it when the ball goes flying off to the other side of the screen. But the other player here, every single shot that the other player attempted, they made every single goal. They did not miss a single shot in the entire game I was going against them here. They won 10-0 against me. I didn't score a single time, and it was a very embarrassing defeat on a very, very basic basketball game here. And so I was like, what went wrong? Like, why was I so incredibly bad in this particular one? I was like, first off, I gotta get the traveling down pat. I gotta figure that out, and maybe I gotta figure out how to like maybe steal the ball a little bit more. So I loaded the game up again a second time. And the second match, I did get to traveling down, down pat for that. I wasn't traveling with the ball anymore, wasn't getting any more penalties. I was actually shooting the shots, I just simply wasn't making the shots. And I also figured out how to steal the ball from the other player. All you have to do is simply like run into the other player, and it's like a 50-50 shot if you're going to get the ball from them. Not a great gameplay mechanic, but that is what it is. You simply run into them and hope for the best if you're going to steal the ball or not. But the second match here, I didn't do as bad, but I still lost the second match pretty significantly. But the third match here, I was like, you know what? I think I got the basics of the game down. I think I need to change my player. So instead of going with small, I went with a player named Carr. And I don't know why I chose him. I guess because I was like, hey, a car, we all drive cars, even though it's got an extra R on it, but whichever. And so I picked Carr, and holy cow, this made the entire difference in the game. The accuracy for Carr, I don't know what the stats are for all these characters. Like there's an invisible stat behind the wall here, or an invisible stat hidden in the coding. But Carr is a significantly better player than Small. Like I'd say 90% of my shots I made with Carr, and maybe like 20% of the shots I made with Small. And so this match here, for the first time in the entire playthrough, I was able to finally win the game. Now, when you win the game, you don't get an amazing little cutscene. You simply get a single image win screen, shows the score, shows you sort of celebrating. Nothing really that special. No credits afterwards. No, animation like the coin flip. Nothing like that. A little bit on the disappointing for winning the game here. But of course, I was like, in order to finish the game, I got to do a 2 versus 2. So I go over to 2 versus 2. You only have 2 choices for your team you can choose from. I chose Los Angeles for the sole purpose that Carr was on that team. And I was like, if Carr was so good in 1 versus 1, Carr should be good on for 2 versus 2. So I picked Carr here. I go into it. Instead of doing a 10-point match, I decided to try a time match out. I do a 3-minute match. And it was a little bit longer as far as, gameplay wise. And you're going to notice in this particular game mode, this is where the game is going to shine, if it's ever going to shine at all. Because there's so much more going on the screen at once. It's so much more full. You can actually utilize the pass button to pass to your teammates. You can actually try to develop strategies as far as getting one player out in the open for your shots. I mean, the game actually feels more like a basketball game in the 2 versus 2. However, when you're doing 2 versus 2, even though you think you're developing more strategies, like getting a player out in the open, rushing up to the side, I don't think it makes any difference. I don't think it makes any difference when you're taking a shot, if someone's guarding you, or if you're taking a shot wide open. I feel like the game just sort of assigns a value if you're going to make the shot based upon which player you're playing as, which sort of sucks a little bit because there's not a lot of skill, a lot of technique, or strategy in how you're actually going to play the game. It's just simply based upon who you choose. And I don't know, that just makes the game not as much fun for the majority of players, and also not much fun because you're going to simply just blast through the game on one player as well. And so a 2 versus 2 looks way better, appears to be way more fun, way more action happening on the screen, but ultimately the mechanics of the game and just sort of the lack of skill in the game and sort of randomness is going to hurt a lot of the fun factor here. And of course, after you win 2 versus 2, you don't get a credits or anything like that. You just simply get a single image on a win screen, nothing too special. And overall, this basketball game here, I wouldn't say it's a great basketball game. I'd actually say it's probably toward the lower end of the basketball games out there. It felt like they changed the title to, compete with NBA Jam, but this game does not compete anything at all close to NBA Jam, any of the other NBA games of the time period. This very much feels like, even for when this came out, an outdated basketball game. And I know there were better experiences on the market during this exact same year, and I feel like they were just simply trying to cash in on it, and they did somewhat of a poor job while they were doing that. And I know someone mentioned in one of my earlier videos of assigning an actual score of every game I go through. And so this game here, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a solid 2. I think this game deserves a solid 2. If it had a little bit more technique in it, a little more skill in it, a little more variation in it, it might go up, but it's definitely going to fall into the 2 category, and might even fall below that if it didn't just simply have that cool cutscene of the flipping the coin. I mean, that may have given it an entire point. I'm not going to lie. That was a good cutscene. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above. And as always, go out there, find a great game to play. Just simply have a great rest of the day.